what
Good
happened
chat.
with Burisma. I know what happened with Burisma. I want to move it on, if I may, to Venezuela. And I've recorded videos with you, Joaquin, recently, and you talked about, no, correct me if I'm, make sure I'm representing you accurately, that it's about securing oil or preventing Israel and the European Union from securing that oil in order to compel Israel to make nice with Saudi Arabia and its neighbors. And then with you, Blaine, you and EM, it's about the stopping the trafficking of drugs and people through the Caribbean into the United States and killing the revenue stream that the CIA's uh, drug trafficking provides for the city of
Oh, but
London.
there's a bigger target, a much bigger target.
Okay.
That's just a byproduct.
Smartmatic?
No, again, another byproduct. All very nice circumstances out of a much grander strategy that I see.
Okay. Okay. We're ready, aren't we, Joaquin? We're ready to be told what's the bigger target.
It's your favorite kids. It's the City of London kids. It's all of them. Here's the thing.
No, no, hold on. When you say
Venice,
kids, you're not talking about child trafficking. You're talking about the
I'm,
evil
I'm, I'm
globalists.
talking about the evil Sith overlords that are wrecking your democracy as you sit there in the UK.
What do you mean wrecking
Those who.
democracy? No, hold on, Blaine. Hold on. I'm not going to have Britain assaulted like this. The Magna
Yeah.
Carta needs to be modernized.
Oh, that's right.
It's
That's exactly
800
right.
years old. We need to
Yes.
modernize with AI and do away with
Yes.
old-fashioned.
Only 5 rapes or we don't press charges. That's
Or
right.
yes, that's
I
right.
forgot.
Jury trials
We
because
should have
they've
some
done
new.
that by
We should have some new
candlelight.
rules. Here's what President Trump, I think, is doing.
Okay.
First off, he's got a great predicate in the war on drugs. Drugs kill over 70,000 Americans every single year. So you're covered. Good. Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution. Article 51 of the UN Charter. Covered. Now, why Venezuela? Well, we don't need their oil. It's dirty. It's not a factor in our part of the thing. But there's a lot of cartel leaders there. And we also know that with Tren de Aragua, the cartel of the sun, that they have well infiltrated, not just across the United States with cartel activity, but they've also co-opted quite a few politicians in DC and their staffs and cubicle dwellers. So what this war is doing is it's starting to attack supply chains that are very meaningful to the money laundering business and moving mass amounts of capital through banks, shadow banks, private banks, um, wealth consortiums. The CCP is involved, has equities in this. World Economic Forum bankers and members have equities in this. City of London. Um, MI6 has equity in this. They told us we're not going to share intel with you anymore. It's like, well, why is that? Are we messing up a business model for somebody? So what's happening is President Trump, if you look at the game Jenga and you have a big Jenga tower, President Trump is pulling on the bottom block hard. And he's going after all of it because the cartels, they touch it all. They touch all of it. Every single illicit thing on this planet. The vascular system for that is what the cartels bring in terms of laundering and transactions in the underworld. And so there's a much bigger war afoot here. And we're already seeing behaviors change everywhere as the pressure goes on. Well, all of this intelligence that our scare tactics off the coast of Venezuela have produced, that we now have, Treasury Secretary Dissent is well armed to go after accounts, freeze assets, pound things, take things. Um, and that's where I think this war is really going. So for every fancy speedboat that you see get sunk to the bottom, or maybe a special ops team shows up and blows up a fentanyl lab or something, just know that there are 3 or 4 other layers going on right below the surface because from Colombia, Venezuela, and Mexico, they're all screaming into their phones bloody murder to all of their people that they think should be helping them. And all that does is generate intelligence for us.
Okay, Joaquin, what do you say to that?
In terms of Trump going after funding sources of what we conventionally call the deep state or the globalist CIA, the CIA, you can look at Plan Colombia from 2000, kind of formalization of the relationship that Central Intelligence has with drug running. So most of the drugs coming into the United States from Latin America are imported by the American establishment itself. So, but there's an inter-elite conflict in the United States, and Trump is trying to get control over this. So, I think there's a lot of truth to what was just said. I think it does boil down largely to you have so many illicit money sources. It's it's a government inside of a government. It's its own entity, and it runs operations globally. Not to get fantastical or that we're after some boogeyman or tilting at windmills or something, but it's a well-established problem. Intelligence organizations in the United States, the CIA in particular, operating on its own, following its own orders, kind of its own telos. It's on its own breakaway mission or whatever. So um, I think there's a conflict about that. It's a big problem. The United States cannot really be agreement capable. We wind up as a non-agreement capable country if civilian government does not control the intelligence services. So if the intelligence services are running some long plan or deep plan or other plan contrary to civilian government and the people that actually have a mandate to make agreements on our behalf internationally, um, you will be non-agreement capable, which is a huge crisis, and you could experience tremendous instability. Why that works for when it did work is there was a time when the United States had a unipolar hegemonic moment, and that you can afford to do that. Like it's kind of like not responding.
Oh, Joaquin,
It's like
sorry, your sound just went. It's kind of
All
like
right,
not
can you hear me
responding.
now?
Yeah.
All right, I'm okay. Okay, so um, if the United States is non-agreement capable, of course, this is a policy and a way of being that worked in the past when the United States was the only country in town, really. So when it comes to being a global hegemonic power, so you don't really, in other words, if you make some type of agreement and then you come back and you say, sorry, the terms have changed, well, you can get away with that, right? If you are the only game in town. So, but that practice, we are structurally, there's a lot of strengths to, being non-agreement capable. There are some advantages conferred when you are at the pinnacle of strength. That is not where the United States is. Ergo, that is not the way to engage diplomatically, right? You need to. So, from a purely functionalist or Machiavellian perspective, right, I'm not holding out any lofty ideals here. I'm just saying the situation has changed. Now the United States, for its own reason, needs to be agreement capable. So they have to go after a lot of this stuff that you're seeing. I mean, this is human trafficking, it's drugs, but it's a lot of normal, a lot of tech, a lot of microchip, a lot of stuff. Taiwan. This is stuff that there are CIA front companies and connections and funds that have been set up and used for years and years, decades. There's multi-generational wealth connected to black budget and CIA funding. I mean, you can look back at monies that disappeared. Blaine will remember this, going back to the day before 9/11 on September 10th. Rumsfeld announced what? Well, how much did he announce was missing, and then just never talked about again, right? So this is the type of stuff that we're talking about. At the same time, what I'm saying is that as Trump has built up this naval force in Puerto Rico, these are assets that otherwise, if you look at the history of any of these, well, I think the last time we talked, we mentioned the USS Gravely for one. Like most others had been restationed briefly in Virginia, but before that had been in the Eastern Mediterranean or in the Persian Gulf, Arabian Gulf. So we know what ships are there, what they're doing when they're there. I mean, there's a number of different roles that they serve, but there's one country in particular that if that country were to decide to attack somebody like Iran, or to try to send their whole military north into Lebanon, something like this, some type of adventure, they would expect that at least with that U.S. naval presence there, that if the American president didn't jump in immediately, he didn't last time. The last time there was 12 days and Trump didn't do anything, basically. So of the back and forth. Now, without even having that naval force there, you don't even have the potential for an APAC or, oh, we're going to do, what are we going to do, right? We're going to do an impeachment. What are we going to do? So there's different, whatever they have done in the past to twist Trump to get him to move on things. If that force is physically not there, I mean, how long would it take to get them? 90 days, 30 days? These are logistical questions, but you're not going to get starting something right now and then the ships, hyperwarp or dematerialize and rematerialize over there. So Puerto Rico is a very interesting location for this group to be. So long as it is there, it is not over there in the Eastern Mediterranean or Persian Gulf. So that's another part of this. And however, when you look at Machado, the Venezuelan opposition figure herself, right? She was only congratulated by three people. Three people she was like when she won the Nobel Peace Prize, she was congratulated by three world leaders. I mean, there was obviously the head of the UN also called her, but he's not an elected official from a country. Three elected officials from countries called her. It was Merz, it was Netanyahu, and it was, who was number three? Mile from Argentina. So this is those three, or especially Merz and Mile, they're known for being so very pro Netanyahu. They love Israel more than anybody, I think, right now. Of all the world leaders in the world, if you look at the ones that are the staunchest pro Netanyahu, I'm not saying staunch pro Israel. That's a different issue. I'm saying staunch pro Netanyahu. It's those two guys and Netanyahu. So Netanyahu, Mile, and Merz are the ones that call Machado to congratulate her, right? Just very interesting. Just as an aside, just to kind of get your gears moving in that direction, like what's the connection? Well, her party, like her movement, a few years ago signed a special agreement with the Likud party, and it covers security, it covers a number of things. It covers energy, right? So now, of the total Venezuelan product right now, maybe you're talking about an additional $20 per barrel, either additional cost of refining it in terms of the total retail price and volume, but you're really just talking about $6 per barrel additional cost in the processing. Or if you cut the oil, the problem with the oil is that it is particularly sour and thick. But nevertheless, it's used everywhere, and it totally does the job. 37% of the oil that Venezuela produces presently is consumed by the United States. So even though the United States has Venezuela on sanctions, other countries that try to buy Venezuelan oil are going to be tacked on this tariff, one of these Trump tariffs. It's automatic. It's kind of like a sanction, but it's a tariff. So the United States is the country that has access to the Venezuelan oil right now. It's like, fucking set aside the politics and, fucking set aside all the narratives just for a minute and just see the thing that you're seeing, right? The United States has direct access to Venezuela right now under these conditions. It doesn't even have to pay money. In fact, it can't under the OFAC regulations from the Treasury pay the joint venture company which the PDVSA has with Chevron. So Chevron operates profitably today in Venezuela at 5 facilities. Refined, there's in the Gulf of Texas, they're refined. It's beautifully done. You can also cut it with lighter, sweeter grade from anywhere, and then you have your barrels.
I thought the US wasn't able to refine Venezuelan oil.
No, they're one of the main ones that do. I mean, they're entirely set up to refine. There's refining in countries, refining in the United States. The Gulf refineries in the United States are designed. The Koch brothers own some of these. They're owned by a number. Valero is another company that does this in the United States. Yeah, and but for example, at Haifa, at refineries in Israel, they have facilities that can refine very heavy crude. You would just, you have issues with, how old are these facilities, or, your crackers. You have there are petrochemical considerations about cracking, getting into being able to make use of the oil and so forth. But in Saudi Arabia and other countries, regionally, and what Israel had been set up to process, we're talking mostly about gas from countries in Central West Africa. They get about 10% presently from Brazil, and they get about 45%, another 40%, 37%-ish between Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan. So between those countries, they get their oil. But all those countries like Turkey and Russia control the oil that by virtue of the routing that comes from Azerbaijan or Kazakhstan. So the Russians have the final control on the Kazakh, and the Turks have the final control on the Azeri. We're talking about barrels of oil for making petrol, diesel that are loaded up. There are no pipelines that deliver oil to Israel. Israel doesn't have any pipelines coming in. Energy Minister, I think Katz, said previously, we want to bring in the oil from Venezuela, right? We want to bring the oil in from Venezuela. We want to be a middleman country as a hub so that then Saudi oil can go from here, but we want to be able to buy and use what we need in a day. They use about 250,000 barrels a day in Israel. It's pretty low consumption. That's what they need. So they have different opportunities, but if Saudi Arabia and these countries don't agree with Israel about the implementation of the 20-point plan, which is now the most recent UN Security Council resolution, then Israel needs options, or to show that they have that opportunity, that they're willing to do that. It gives them leverage in any negotiations if they have access to this Venezuelan oil. They only have access to the Venezuelan oil as they want it if Machado is in there. So right now, Trump actually has the oil. He's wrestled it from these other players. He's flipped Maduro in a way. I have proposed that they, in fact, have, in the Machiavellian sense, a Roman friendship or Roman alliance. Anyway, that's my piece on that.
Thank you, Joaquin. Blaine?
Yeah, no, I don't think that we're actually in a different place. I think Joaquin describes the oil equities quite well. What I'm saying is you're not going to see us invade or blow up Venezuela over oil. You're just not. But in the region, we have equities in this greater war, this greater thing that is killing hundreds of thousands of Americans at the lowest level, and at the other end, it enables every illicit activity on the planet and can change behaviors in a very pleasing strategic way for the United States and its interests. And so what happens next? Well, Maduro's kind of stuck. He's got an offer to leave with his skin and his family. He's been shopping countries to do that. But he's also made some demands that have been rejected, which he wants 200 million in his pants pockets and 100 of his best friends to be able to have safe passage out. So that's been turned down, not pretty much over the money, but mostly the people. The offer is really basically, okay, I got to save all the leadership of the cartels and myself, and then we'll have a deal. No, that's not going to work. So Maduro's dilemma is he's in between the dog and the fire hydrant right now. If I say maybe I should take President Trump's offer and leave, good luck even getting to the airport. But if I say I'll stay here and bunker in, you may want to review Jane's All the World's Militaries for what our bunker buster looks like and how that works out. So it's a conundrum, but at the same time, this is not just a Venezuela issue. This is the reason the Fourth Fleet was stood up there with its carrier strike package, which is going to be there for some time. I just saw that on sam.gov that the Navy is now putting out contract tenders for logistics support for the Fourth Fleet going into 2028. So in other words, that indicates to me this is a longer term proposition than making some headlines.
Oh yeah, definitely. Just in terms of not to jump in, but just in terms of the long term nature of that project and the physical installations in Puerto Rico as well are expanded. So
yeah, no, that's a great way to judge strategic intent, Rich. Is I'll give you the sam.gov website, and you can just go look at all the contracts that come up and are for offer and what their time duration is, and that kind of gives you an idea about what the Pentagon's thinking about things. But
sounds like a riveting website for me to waste a few hours of my life.
Well, if you're having some trouble sleeping, go read a broad area announcement for space satellite trajectory modules, and you too will be asleep within minutes.
Okay.
But I think we're in this thing for the long haul for a much bigger game.
Okay, we're just on the sleeping. Thank you, Blaine. Just on the sleeping, I recorded a video with Alex Krainer and Harley Schlanger from the Narush organization.
Love them both.
This morning, right? And Alex has said a couple of times about how he watches all my videos, but he ends up falling asleep. So if people are still awake at this point, right, please, or if you've fallen asleep, that's even better. If you've fallen asleep through this conversation, let us know in the comments that you've actually fallen asleep. Now,
that's great.
It's time for us to finish up, right? But I'm not sure we covered it. I do want to talk about NATO and the United States not being there at the summit. Which is the first time since 1999. And I think that's a big deal. And I did say in a video with Susan Kokinda and Tom and Longo and Alex Krainer a couple of months ago that I had this sense that at some point, Trump is going to pull out of NATO. Now, I said that without doing any, I don't know, treaties or whatever, right? Do you want to just comment on that, Blaine, quickly, and then we'll finish up in a few minutes?
Sure. So, at the start of this talk, we talked about Europe's non-loving ways of transmitting to the United States how grateful they are for us providing that security blanket. Um, and when we talk about the European leaders not following President Trump's leadership, they're not just playing with matches; they're playing with gasoline and bombs. Because if President Trump keeps getting thwarted as he's trying to get this aligned, and he views that Europe was the problem, he will pack up and go. But he's going to be taking 150,000 U.S. forces, a whole lot of ships and infrastructure with him. And this is not where Europe wants to be. And it's actually not good for the world geopolitically in the long term. My worry is if we ever left Europe, we'd be right back again within a year or two, for bad reasons. And so NATO's future is imperiled right now. I used to say, we are NATO, we put the fun in dysfunctional. And that's always NATO at its best, because you have a nice club in Brussels, and you got, at the time, less nations, but now 32 that have to talk to each other 6 times a week, whether they like it or not. That was good. That's good for everybody. But it's good for everybody if it's a defensive alliance, and it's an alliance that's not craven for, we just got to get Georgia into the alliance. We got to get Ukraine into the alliance. And I can tell you, there are times when I've been at NATO when that was the only issue, despite all of the illegal migrations and invasions coming into Europe, despite the all the other nonsense that we saw in Europe. It was no. Russians are the worst. They're the quintessential existential threat. And it's like, you're making them that way. And man, the board of directors at Lockheed, Boeing, and British Aerospace sure love you for that. But I'm not sure that's a qualified strategic analysis. And so NATO's future is probably tied to the EU's, and both are in deep trouble right now.
Yes, I don't think they'll make it through the decade, EU. Joaquin, anything quickly in a minute or so about NATO?
Yeah, it's I've been of the opinion, I don't know, about 12 years now that NATO would be unwound, and I've been writing on and off about different scenarios or ways to look at it being unwound. I see the conflict in Ukraine as being the conflict that defines that unwinding of NATO. So the military kind of conflicts speed things up. World political, technological, military processes speed up during a warfare, as a product of war. So I'm seeing that process now taking off, and the United States not participating in this now new NATO summit is, I think, quite a big deal. And we're seeing obviously the difference spelled out very clearly in the Ukrainian conflict. So I don't think there's much more that people need to really. But I would definitely agree with Blaine that this is connected to the EU. And I was writing about 10 years ago that we should see the rise of an EU army, a continental army, which would basically be NATO without the United States. So that,
yes, or German tanks without electricity. Now,
yeah,
Blaine,
that's right.
thank you so much. DangerousIntellectuals.com, and I'll have your at the Irascible your X link, and your Dangerous Intellectuals X link, and Joaquin, you're only on Telegram because you've been censored everywhere.
Yes.
So I have the link to your Telegram and your Patreon, and I do recommend people go and subscribe to both their channels. This is going to go out on Dangerous Intellectuals at some point. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Wish you all
A
the
pleasure.
best. And
Good
we'll
to meet
see
you, Blaine.
next
Thanks
time.
for having me.
Yeah, good to meet you too.